It's just not very often that I'm watching Star Trek and I say, ew, 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 ew. But that happened this episode.
Captain's Pod, Stardate 7033-23.1. Welcome aboard the Starship's Enterprise, and thank you for joining us as we take a brief shore leave from the world of CinemaSins to explore the universe of Star Trek. I'm your Captain Ian Whittington, and with me as always, she basically wants to turn my ship into a hotel. It's Ambassador Deneé.
Come one, come all. Just come hang out with us in the ship. There's plenty of room. The replicators will make whatever the fuck you want. It's going to be so fun.
Ambassador.
Also, we have fresh towels and a new pool. Sure, it's Cirtation Ops, but we clean it. So it's kind of like a bubbly, sauna minus the really hot temperatures. And also the bubbles are from living beings that probably would rather not spend their afternoon blowing bubbles for your pleasure. But you know what? You're our guest here on this Enterprise Hotel.
I love that you're just stood in the cargo bay with the door open while we're at warp with a sign shouting all of this. Just like, come on. You're literally screaming into a void.
Listen, we found out last time that space that has no corners, you can still be cornered in space.
You can still be cornered, yeah. I love him so much. I love him. Why is he going to die this week? Why? Why is he going?
Do you think he is?
To die. He's going to die this week or next week. Wow. He is a dead man. He really is.
Okay, cool.
While we're talking about
prepare yourself emotionally for it,
I'm not. There's no amount of preparation that will allow that death to be okay. Do you know how bold Todd Stashwick is? So episode 1, he's a bit of a dick, and the fan reaction is a little bit mixed.
That's the actor playing Shaw.
The actor that plays Captain Shaw, yeah. He has just spent the last week on the Star Trek cruise, which is this big cruise ship.
Oh,
and it's dedicated, it's like a big Star Trek convention on a boat at sea. And he's on it.
What could go wrong?
The balls on this guy. He knows that his character is going to be divisive. What am I going to do? The most hardcore, committed Trekkies, I'm going to put myself on a boat with them for a week. Imagine it, how if his character had been really badly received. I love the balls on this man. It's awesome. But obviously he had a great time, and he lived up that he's the captain of Titan, and it looked like they all had a great time.
Oh man, would you ever go?
The balls on him. Yeah, 100%. Okay. In a second. Sorry, carry on.
No, there's just some things that you're really excited about, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I wish I was that kind of person that could. I'm trying to think of what fandom-based thing would it have to be for me to be willing to get on a boat.
Okay, but that's a boat thing because you don't like boats.
Right.
You don't
what
like being
for me
at
would
sea.
It have to be? What fan base thing would have to be happening floating on water for me to face the fear and do it?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's one that exists. I don't
think there is.
There's anything that would get you on there. Star Trek's got to be close, or Lord of the Rings. But I don't know if that's going to be enough. If you knew that all of the Critical Role people were going to be there.
NADPOD, maybe?
Yeah.
Those fan groups are amazing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they're my people.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, I can see that. Star Trek is pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so fun. They have a museum on there as well that had a lot of the uniforms from this season of Picard. It was basically season 3 Picard themed. I want to go so bad.
Why didn't you?
Very expensive.
How expensive?
I can't remember. I want to say it is thousands of dollars. It is expensive. Maybe next year. Amazing. Okay, well, this week we are talking about, unsurprisingly, episode 3 of season 3 of Star Trek Picard. Any predictions for this week? The title is 17 seconds.
17 seconds is the title, or I'm supposed to know the title within 17 seconds?
Yes, to both.
Ooh, so much can happen in 17 seconds. I learned so much when I was in live radio. Let's say you have a minute until you go live. You can totally go pee in that amount of time. You can run down the hall, jump in the bathroom, do your thing, wash your hands, run back down the hall, sit down, and probably still have 20 seconds. If you're fast.
Wait, what, you can travel through time? You can have a 17-second break, leave, come back, and have 20
No,
seconds
minute.
left.
I said a minute.
Oh, a minute, right, sorry. I was imagining you doing all of that in 17 seconds.
Right, of course, no. But what I'm saying is that 17 seconds gives that when I would sit down with just like 20 seconds to go into your live, you can assemble your thoughts, you can catch your breath, you can focus. There's so much you can do. So even though it's a very short amount of time, it's incredible what you can accomplish in 17 seconds. But yeah, that could mean anything. We know that they're going into a nebulous for a chase against this scary ship. So
Nebula.
maybe it comes, what did I say?
You said nebulous.
Oh, but it's a nebula.
Nebula, yeah.
Can a nebula be nebulous?
Oh, absolutely. It can be.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Leviosa.
Anyhow, I'm wondering if it has something to do with maneuvers or decisions that have to be made within that short amount of time. You never know. It could be a 17-second long kiss.
It could, maybe 17 seconds was how long it took to conceive, Jack.
Oh my God.
I'm a terrible.
You're so bad.
Picard's
And
just
yet-
like, Beverly, it was 17 seconds. How did we make a baby out of that?
Do we ever see Picard kiss anybody?
Yes, absolutely.
have?
Yeah,
Okay.
several times.
I don't remember because I don't remember ever seeing it.
Don't know that it's an episode that we've watched. Did we watch the one where the captain is on holiday and he goes to ReSINstance and does some archaeology? And then there's the Ferengi that's chasing after him, and they're trying to get this special artifact that's this really dangerous weapon from the future.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Riker sends him with this like sex statue, and he puts it on display. And they're just like, "Are you seeking Mahaj?"
It was a book. It was a book. He was reading a book.
He's reading a book, and there's a little statue next to him, and people keep coming up to him saying, "Are you seeking Jahamaron?" Basically, a blowjob.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Why do you keep asking me for that?" And he's like, "I'm going to kill Riker." Oh, wait, this is the episode where he's like, "Somebody gifted to you, a friend," and he's like, "You could say that. Somebody you love? I wouldn't go that far."
Yeah, he's like he's forced into a vacation. But I don't remember him kissing someone. Did he kiss the other archaeologist lady there?
Yeah, the archaeologist lady. They kiss, yeah. A few times.
Well,
They
apparently
get jiggy at
it
night.
wasn't that memorable, or maybe I looked away for a split second because I was eating, a pancake or something.
Yeah, you would have been eating pancakes at the time. There is no doubt about that.
Crumpets, Marmite. I was a little obsessed while I was in Europe.
All of the European foods. Right. I haven't got any better predictions for that. Other than, are we going to see Geordie this week?
Now that you mentioned it, sure. Do you think we're going to see Geordie? Do you know something I don't?
No, we just know that he's in this season and he's going to be coming soon. I don't know.
Why do we know he's going to be coming soon?
Well, we've seen him in the trailer.
We don't know when he shows up, though. Sometimes trailers will show you something that happens the final episode.
If we put him in the finale and nothing else, I will riot. No, but I don't think it'll be this week. I think it'll be a couple of weeks from now. I think this is going to be like a Nebula submarine episode. Chasey.
Nebulous.
That's the one. Right. With that, we will see you over in 10 forward after we've watched the episode. To beam out. To the Titan! Welcome to 10 Forward, the part of the show where we grab a drink from the replicator and share our immediate thoughts and feelings on the episode we just watched. Most important question first, what is your Beverly of choice?
What is my Beverly of choice?
See what I did there? See what I did? Beverage, Beverly?
I don't know. Like, there was so much liquid in this episode, but none of it was really something that you wanted to drink. Like, there's human blood, and then there's like the liquid nature of a changeling. But I'm pretty sure that's ingesting a being. Probably not wise to do that. So I think I'll just go with water.
Just glass of water, nice. I want a glass of deuterium water.
This episode had so much stress. I had dry mouth a couple times. So
really?
just some water is great.
That's amazing. Just need to rehydrate because you've been on edge the entire time. There was some like uncomfortable conversations in this episode.
Yes. Yes. This gave you all the anxiety.
Hey, Ambassador, give us the overview
of
the episode.
Damn it. Shit.
I forgot you were doing it as well. I was about to do it, but no.
Okay.
Do it.
Picard, season 3, episode 3.
Cheating.
Has us realizing important things like fan fiction for Raffi Worf is at an all-time high.
Yeah, it is.
And maybe the second most important question is, did they ever actually perform surgery on Shaw? And if so, how is that guy doing? They don't answer all those questions. But they do decide to answer the question, what if Riker put Picard in his place? What if Picard did have a son but didn't know about it? What if they showed us really cool portal space battles so that we would forget all of our questions? That's what you need to know about today's episode.
Heck yeah. Right. Okay, what did you like about it? Okay, overall thoughts and feelings about the revelations and the developments and the overall feelings of episode 3.
I had a blast.
Yeah,
Did you?
I did. Oh, I loved it. This is my favorite episode so far.
Okay.
Yeah. And I hope I'm going to keep saying that every week. But this was an excellent episode. And not just because of all of the reveals and whatnot. I think it was well paced, incredibly well acted, well written, and even the slightly cheesier bits that are a bit cliche were acknowledged, and I could kind of let it pass as everyone kind of knows they're being a bit cliche. But yeah, no, love this episode, love what they're doing. So many, oh, that was fucking cool moments. So yeah, I just completely overtook you. So why did you like it?
Oh my gosh. All those reasons. Yeah. I wrote down many times that I was just really impressed with the way that they were telling their story in this episode. And I continue to it's not lost on me that these are characters that I watched when I was a child. And there's something really special about getting to see what they are doing on screen. Like, these are all humans that decided to come back to the table and do the hard work of creating a show for us because there's a fan base that would really enjoy it. And I'm so fucking enjoying this. Like, I wish that this would have been season 1 of Picard because this is what I wanted. But like we said, you kind of have to do the first and second season to gain the momentum to maybe get the budget potentially to do what's happening now.
Okay, yeah. Potentially. That's the only thing I can think of.
Think about all the people that they're having to pay to create what we're watching. And it's paying off for me, the fan watching it. And I'm glad it's done this well. And, I'm sure there's lots of different opinions about it, and that's totally fine. But like, here in the moment, having just watched it, there are some phenomenal things that are happening. And I wrote down many, many times that I was just really excited to be like able to witness it. So I had a blast. I think one of my there's so many things I liked about this episode, but that space battle stuff was delightful. Like, that was so fucking cool.
Space battle, yeah. I think it's the best space battle stuff we've seen.
I haven't seen it in
forever.
I didn't see it in Strange New Worlds.
No, and Strange New Worlds has a couple of really good things, but that's doing something very, very different. What I've always loved about the movies, where they've lacked in plot and maybe originality, they've always had incredible space battles. Like, the big movie budget stuff always has incredible space battles. This feels like movie space battles. Like, it's so fun to watch. Like, there are some glorious shots of the Titan just as it's like coming into battle, and then it like they get the Dutch angle on the camera and it spins around and does a 180. And I'm a child, all right? It's not profound, it's not big, it's not clever, but it is beautiful. It's so fun to watch. And we got phaser beams! We got a torpedo being blown up by a phaser, and that's all I really wanted today, all right?
Well, then I guess that's the show. Hey, thanks for listening to Captain's Pod, everybody.
Yep, no sins this week. Just one torpedo exploded by a phaser. I love it.
Yeah.
It's great.
I did too.
I love it.
And I like that they kind of revisited the battle multiple times because it was a cat and mouse game and we really got that feel. There wasn't a lot of bad guy ship captain in this one, but when she was on screen, she was really calculated and scary. And I was glad that they didn't give her as much screen time because so much was happening on the Titan this episode. And I think we needed to be on the Titan for the amount of time that we were on because we were in sick bay. We were in we were in the lifts. We were in parts of the ship that we haven't seen before that have gas leaks. We were in long hallways that nobody will see you plant a bomb in. We were on the bridge, obviously. We were just we were in Seven's quarters while she was quarantined. So we really spent a lot of time like getting to know the ship and the crew. And if they are laying the foundation for a future show, they're doing a good job because
They
this
did a
is
really good job of it.
the
Yeah.
kind of exposure that you need. So anyhow, so we're on the Titan, but then when we pop back out into the space battle going on, they give us new things to think about. Like, of course, they're going to shoot into a portal and it's going to shoot themselves.
Yeah.
Of course. But did we see it coming? For some reason, no, I didn't see it coming because I was
that was like my heart
into
sank.
it. I know. Me too. And how cool is
It
it
was
that
so
they
well
kind of can
done.
choreograph what essentially should be something where you're like, well, yeah, they're going to use the portal gun to do the thing. But I was so into each scene, each kind of like battle angle and everything that I didn't even perceive of it. I didn't even perceive of that being the big, well, how often do we end an episode where our ship is in danger? Unless you're going into a 2-part episode back to back, but this is not an episodic series. We're watching it a seasonal series. And so they get to do fun stuff like this where they leave us going, well, fuck, how are they going to get out of this one? And I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I love it. You would think that you should have seen that coming, the whole portal thing, because they telegraphed it earlier by just playing cat and mouse with the Titan and just chucking it in one portal and out the other. But when they fired the torpedoes, it's kind of the momentum was building to this is how they're going to escape. This is how they get back to to Starfleet and report on everything. I wasn't expecting them to be stuck in the nebula still. So the portal appears and I'm like, I wonder where those torpedoes are. Oh no. Oh no. It's just the worst. So it's a friendly fire just sucks. That's just, you're doing all of the work for the other ship. Clever way to use portals. Like we often see in Marvel films the unimaginative ways that superpowers are used and how it ends up being a fist fight and no one's powers are really used together. And we're lucky if we see Captain America reflect Iron Man's lasers with his shield. That's about as imaginative as it gets. We've got some really imaginative use of weapons here and like how to use the portal. And we would have been saying, hey, couldn't you use the portal to do this and just appear anywhere you want? And it's cool. I think you can get away with a lot when you add a bit of, I'm willing to forgive a lot when you can do something that uses a bit of imagination.
Yeah. I think overall this episode you would describe both as a cat and mouse with an enemy on the exterior of the ship and a cat and mouse on the interior of the ship. And they did a good job in kind of like sitting back and letting that reveal itself kind of more towards the end of the episode. But there was enough kind of sprinkling in that you could see it coming a bit, and those wink and nods to this strange person that we've seen at the bar and in the Titan lineup when Picard and Riker enter the ship, and he was kind of the guy giving the side eye. So they've done a good job of showing us from the start that there was something nefarious going on behind the scenes that they hadn't considered yet, but not giving it to us too much. So it's definitely a mystery. I really loved Shaw being the one that couldn't let go of how they were being hunted. You have the captain of the ship, then you have the Captain Riker, and then you have the Admiral / Captain Picard, and you have the Fenris Ranger 7 and 9. You've got these really powerful leaders. And so for the script and the writers to give each of them kind of an important role in the puzzle, I thought that was really cleverly done as well, because it was Shaw holding on to Jack saying, how is she hunting us? Like, how is she finding us? And Jack sort of thinking about leaving a trail. I made a wrong assumption that I thought that the pulse, the ship kept it being pulsed while they're in this nebula. And I thought that it was one of the interesting weapons that maybe the ship had, where it was able to send a pulse out that would not find the ship through normal means, but through some kind of a bio residue. And maybe they had Jack's DNA somehow. And I thought maybe they were like hunting him from place to place to place. But there's still more to be found out about that. Like, we still don't know why they're going for Jack.
That would be really, really clever, because it would explain why like the Klingons came after him, why they kept turning up when they were on the Ilios. So I was kind of with you on that one. But sabotage is also pretty cool.
Sabotage is interesting, but it doesn't. It's also like that carries back through so many other questions about, like, obviously Beverly wasn't sabotaging the ships, and they were able to hunt them before. So I'm curious. How this person was put on the Titan, and they knew that the Titan was going to have Jack, and like, because that guy was already on the Titan. So
I think the answer to that might be a lot of ships have a changeling on board.
Gotcha.
not
That makes
just the
sense.
Titan, or else that would be a huge, didn't we get lucky?
Yeah.
That Jack ends up on the one ship that we have a changeling on board. I think this is spread throughout the most important ships in Starfleet.
Yeah, let's pull that detail out, because obviously this episode is also about the big reveal that the bad guy here is a changeling. And they're bringing up the Dominion War. I've heard this word before when we were watching Deep Space Nine when I was in Europe. And you and my friend Jen and I went on a Deep Space Nine's binge for like 2 days. We just had it on the TV nonstop.
Oh, man, we watched... So somebody in the chat mentioned, man, sure wouldn't it have been... Oh, isn't Ian kicking himself that he didn't do some DS9 episodes? Well, we did, just not as part of the show. We actually watched 10 episodes from season 7 of the Dominion War arc. So
not that I understood what that was about at the time either, to be honest with you. So I remember those words, but I guess I'm curious from your perspective, because you are such a Trekkie. Like, how do you feel about the reveal that the changelings are involved, the bringing up the Dominion War, and kind of the implications of what's going on? We still have mysteries to solve. Like, what were they actually trying to... The portal gun wasn't the big weapon. Like, what did they actually steal? So there's just that intrigue there. So we don't know everything yet, but what do you feel about like this first sort of the writer saying, without a question, here's a little bit of what we're doing right now?
Overall, I love it. I'm really, really happy. Overall, it's very safe. This is a very, very safe direction to take the final season of Picard, and I completely get it, and I don't disagree with it at all. But calling back to a big bad guy from Deep Space Nine that isn't as popular as TNG, so isn't going to be as well known as the Klingons or the Romulans, but are still a huge, huge threat and a huge, huge part of Star Trek lore. It's really, really smart. It's really, really clever. So instead of risking... Because if you create a new bad guy, a new alien race, you've only got 10 episodes to make them really punchy and to make them really, really memorable. So I think their only option was to pull back from something in the past that still packs a wallop and is still really fun and still has a lot to explore. Like, there's so much about the Founders and the Changelings that we don't know. And at this point, I think we're 20... What are we going to be? Yeah, we're 20 years removed from the Dominion War. So they've had 2 decades to kind of rebuild, reestablish themselves, even though we've been told this is an offshoot. They've had 20 years to plan and scheme and embed themselves in Starfleet. So yeah, I think I'm all here for it. There is something niggling in my head that says it was too safe, and I would like to see them do something different, but I would rather them not take the risk and just do something really fun, because this allows them to loop in a lot from Deep Space Nine. It gives Worf a reason to be really invested because he fought in the Dominion War and was on the front line on Deep Space Nine. So I think it's really, really smart.
Well, that's good, because he was the person in this episode that had the information that we, the viewer who doesn't know what's going on, needed, because he was able to kind of like bring Rafi up, and it makes sense that it was his character doing that. I'm okay with the bad guy being maybe a simple reach for a fan, and also just something interesting to think about for the medium fan like myself, because this is about Riker or this is about Picard's, legacy. This isn't the beginning of a brand new.
Exactly.
This is, you could get distracted by thinking, oh, we got a good bad guy, let's go after the bad guy. But the show has just a few more episodes to do what Picard wants to do.
Exactly.
Not Picard the character, Picard the show, and the writers for Picard wants to accomplish. So maybe they're introducing kind of something that's going to pop up in a spinoff of some kind. Who knows?
No, but I think it's really, really smart, because it does, and there's such a negativity around the word fan service, but this is good fan service. This is servicing the fans in the right way while also being able to tell a story about Picard, because I don't have to worry too much about who... I'm sure there'll be more to know about Vadic as it goes on, but whether she's a changeling or not, I don't have to worry about this new alien species. I can focus on, oh, cool, the changelings are back. Let's do it. Let's see them fuck things up, because they were like as big a threat as the Borg in a lot of ways, because they were like infiltrating all levels of Starfleet. They can be literally anybody, and it's a really, really cool concept.
A way to tell who they are, though, or
there was. You can test you can basically do a blood test on them. Like, if you can get a sample of their blood, they can't exactly replicate blood. And they did have this, I think it was like a gas that you could release, or some kind of grenade that they had, which if you basically trap them, you can force them to turn back into a liquid. Now, and apparently if you punch them in the face, it makes them go wobbly, which save that for the sins. But yeah, you whether they've adapted to make that stop being a thing, you can expose them. But you got to test everybody.
Right.
And then you got to test them again. And then you got to keep testing them.
It would be like protocol that before you start working on a starship, you have a blood test.
But it would have to be daily. I mean, that already is the protocol, but it would have to be, just because you tested them yesterday doesn't mean they're not a changeling today, because they could have been taken out and replaced. You never know when someone is going to be replaced.
Oh my God.
Could be anyone.
Can they take the form of like a dog?
Yeah.
Can they take the form of a desk?
Yes.
No, objects. They can't.
Literally anything.
That's too OP.
Could be
That's
sitting
too powerful.
on one.
We already have a Q issue.
Literally anywhere. It could be the Titan. No, it couldn't be the Titan because that's got too many moving parts. But
that's crazy. Okay.
Yeah,
so
it's the T-1000 from Terminator.
That's just kind of blowing my mind.
Yeah, huh?
A bit. Okay, cool. Yeah. Super nervous about whatever's going to happen next. Like, it doesn't seem like there's really any way to battle that.
So the one big weakness is that they have this illness that has spread through. So they mentioned Worf mentioned the Great Link,
yeah,
and that is the planet where they live, and they all kind of collect together into this big puddle, and they kind of share thoughts, and they're just this one big thing. There's a disease that's spreading through them that doesn't have a cure, and they're kind of looking for galactic domination because they see solids as a threat.
Right.
So they were kind of battling this disease and battling solids, who they think are lesser beings.
But just quick question, like, as they reform into whatever they reform into, are they still so they are individuals within the goo?
Yeah, they still have individual thoughts, but they are a collective thought process.
Could they just decide that one individual just takes all the disease goo and then no one else has it?
No.
Well, that's stupid.
Yes.
All right. No offense, Star Trek writers.
No. But work out your goo bad guys more.
Well, do you want to get into some specifics of stuff that you really enjoyed, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hit Beverly and Gates McFadden acting her pants off. Like,
for the record, he's talking about the US version of pants and not the UK version of pants.
Oh no, I was speaking of the UK version.
Oh,
but
shit.
There we go. Yeah, just acting everything off.
My God.
Now there's two different discussions here. We're not talking about whether Beverly was right or anything like that, but Gates' acting in that performance is incredible. It's so good, well directed, well acted, well written. Whether or not you agree with where she's coming from, I get the motivation, I get the logic, and it was just it wasn't a long scene, didn't drag out for too long. It was just a really compact back and forth between them, talking about something that has to be dealt with right then and there. And just really well acted from both of them. But Gates in particular, I think she did a great job. How did that moment hit you?
It was really uncomfortable. Because it was like watching your parents argue or something.
Yeah.
You know, this beloved people, and you're like, we're going to sit in this. We're not cutting away. This isn't one of those moments where it's like a fade to black. We'll come back to this later. No. We're going to listen to them talk for a while. And it was so needed. It's just like, it was such an important thing because you can't, I would have been so upset if they would have skipped over that conversation, a really important conversation of why Beverly didn't tell Picard that he had a son.
It's big.
And I think that it was
huge.
Brave for the writers to decide that it was because she thought that she was doing what was best to keep her son protected.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that the writers were brave to point out that Picard was like, also my son though, right? Like that could have changed everything. And I thought that they hit the important kind of highlights of what that conversation would be. And it would have failed completely if Gates McFadden and why can't I think Sir Patrick Stewart, if they wouldn't have had the dedication to really bring it to the painful places. It was really hard to watch because I could see their pain. Like they were both in a lot of pain.
Yeah, both of them.
And we don't have to get into what we think about the right or wrong decisions are, but I really thought that it was well done. And I completely agree with one of the comments that came in when we were kind of talking about this. Nick said, I love how they take a situation like Beverly leaving, start out with a not reasonable excuse, and then build it until you actually understand Beverly's point. She was wrong, but she wasn't. And that was, I wanted to say that, but I thought that Nick kind of like said it really well. It's uncomfortable no matter what, but I could see both perspectives. And that says something about not just the writing, but how they're performing it. But the writing has to sing, and it has to sing in a way where it's building. Like, and it got to the point where it's like, I was watching a tennis conversation, like, okay, good point, you. Okay, good point, you. Okay, you know, just looking back and forth.
Counterpoint, good.
And the awkwardness melted away until it was like, wow, how do you sit with that? You know, what is Picard going to do? And he walks out of that conversation like, I've been cut out of this decision. I've been cut out of this life. And there is nothing for me to do here right now, except for solve a major problem of us surviving. And he just quickly shifts gears again. And I don't think he had anything else to do. Like him walking out and telling his son, I'm sorry I wasn't there. He shouldn't have to apologize for that. That was a decision that Beverly made. Yeah. And it also was interesting that they wrote in that Jack had decided in his adult life not to pursue a relationship with Picard, because then that means Picard is also considering that it was Jack's wishes to not know him either. And so Picard has been super fucking rejected. And then he goes on in this episode to be super fucking rejected by his best friend Riker in other ways. And it's just hard to watch. Like, it's just hard.
Picard getting beaten up again.
It is, yeah.
Why that scene is so great for me and why I love it so much is the show isn't making a judgment about who is right and who is wrong and which side of the argument you should come down on here. It is presenting both sides of the fact. Now, I'm not a parent, so I won't be able to fully relate to either sides of the argument, but I can empathize somewhat. And I kind of forget that sometimes humans are fallible beings, including the ones that we put on screen. Beverly is a living, breathing character that can make whatever decisions she wants. And there's no reason to say that she's right or wrong. We can, based on what we think and how we might have handled it. And maybe she thinks that she should have handled it differently, but she doesn't apologize.
No.
And I really, really, really like that in this scene. It would have been very easy to say, I'm sorry, Jean-Luc, I regret it. But no, I bet she doesn't.
No, I don't think she does.
She can be fully aware of how morally questionable what she did was, but she protected her child in the best way she knew how.
And she thinks that what's happening is still related to Picard, because she said that this is a warship with Picard-sized enemies behind it. And so she's still thinking that she couldn't protect her son. And I'm wondering if the writing will turn that on its head and be like, actually, this is your fault, Beverly. But we'll see.
Oh, this is something. Oh, man, because, that would be a bit dicky.
Honestly, that was interesting as well. I didn't have to understand the references of the stories, but when they reference their history, they reference how many times they broke up, they reference their troubles, they reference like...
Oh, that's all post-movie stuff as well. That's all stuff we haven't seen.
They reference that, you know, she would try to reach out to him and there was a this thing and then there was a that thing and then there was this thing. And you're just like, kind of like, yeah, Picard's a dangerous, like he's a well-known target. And so I can understand why she would want to protect. My instinct is that there might have been other ways to do so, but those choices weren't made.
But it allows, Picard is allowed to be outraged as well in this scene. He's allowed to say, you didn't give, like that is having a choice. Like, making the wrong choice, quote unquote, can haunt you. Not even having a chance to make that choice stings. That hurts. That you have robbed me of the chance to weigh in and even have a part of the most important thing I could ever do. So we get the outrage at Beverly. We get a good argument from her about why she did it. Everybody can be wrong, everybody can be right at the same time. But I think it was probably it's not the first time we've ever seen it's my son and you ran away with him and didn't give me a chance to be a part of his life storyline. But it's one of the best written ones that I've seen in terms of that argument coming to a head.
I think what makes it good is that there's so much history that we've seen as fans.
Yeah.
I don't feel that if I had seen that scene and didn't know those characters, I'm not sure that I would have felt the same feelings that I'm feeling when I was watching this, because there's such a history between them and it's just so fucking powerful to see them on the screen like that, to look at Gates McFadden and her beautiful face and that voice that I know so well, that's still so strong coming out of that, aged body. And it's just like, man, this is fucking cool. This is really cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's
Really,
difficult
really
to watch.
cool.
It's a difficult topic to think about, but I thought that they handled it really well, personally. And they got it over with at the beginning too, so we didn't have to wait to have it.
We're not waiting
Yeah.
for it for the entire episode. Just get it done. It's really, really smart on the pacing front. And it kind of gave the fans exactly what we wanted. We wanted Beverly and Picard to hook up and have a relationship. They have, in the intervening 26 years since we last saw them, there were 6 years where they did try, and they were on and they were off, and it was complicated as relationships are. And they did get together, but it's not. It would have been a little bit cheap to say, hey, they got married, and just because you wanted it.
And honestly, thank you for showing me an example of two people that try and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't. It ends up going someplace you don't want it to go.
Yeah.
If I can transition us, kind of speaking of things that they decided to deal with kind of right at the beginning, we find out really quickly what the 17 seconds is in reference to on this title.
Oh, yeah.
Because it has a before scene, which instead of saying 15 years ago, which they just said before. And I thought that was super fucking clever, because oftentimes it's 10 years ago, and then you're doing the calculations and it doesn't match up when you rewatch these things in the future. But this is a clever way to just say before, and just you can kind of build the assumptions and sort of fill in the blanks or whatever. We see this interaction between Picard and Riker at a bar, and Riker is celebrating the arrival of his son Thaddeus, who I believe is the one that's now, that's his son who passed away, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And so who
could have been cured by Data's
right.
positronic man.
That's right. And we sort of learned that the 17-second idea is that it's a very, very long amount of time to spend in a lift going to sickbay to see if there's something wrong with your child. Silly me, didn't think about that also circling back around as a nice little wink for Picard later in the episode, but I should have seen that coming.
Bit of nice plant seeded, nice plotting. Really, really nice touch. That was really well done.
Yeah, because they kind of, the idea that Riker has this multiple times during this episode to encourage Picard to do something about being a father or about learning more about Jack. And Picard, I think rightfully, is like, this now's not the right time, man. And Riker says, I agree also with this. You don't really have any time, man. Someday you're not going to have any time, and then you're going to want to have had all the time. And so Riker is talking from experience, and Picard is talking from his own experience. And I think that was really kind of well done. And the back and forth lift ride, what a great way at the very end to show Picard wondering if Jack is going to be alive at the end of this episode. Just going back and forth between Jack possibly dying and Picard stuck in that lift for 17 seconds before he can get to sickbay.
Yeah.
That is all we need to believe that Picard has realized he wants to have a relationship. We don't have to have anything else. They don't have to show us anything else. They have literally just let us have a massive character development in just these few frames. And I thought that was really brilliantly done personally. I thought it was good storytelling.
Yeah, and nothing really brings it home like near-death experiences. That nothing puts it into perspective, even for somebody that deals with it all the time. When you can have this ambiguous thing of the ship may be destroyed and we're all gone. But when something has specifically targeted Jack, then he's like, I'm okay, missed the last 20 years, can't do anything about that. Gotta do something about the present and right now, especially if I'm about to get us all killed.
Yeah.
But no, really, really liked that. I'm liking Jack more and more.
Me too.
As well.
Yeah.
I love that we got to see Jack and Beverly back at work, and watching Beverly be a doctor was just incredible.
So cool.
Oh, I loved it so much. I don't think we had to do it at the expense of the current chief medical officer, but fine, okay, you do you, show. But I think both things can be true. You can have two very intelligent, powerful doctors that are both right for different reasons. Beverly kind of made her look a bit stupid in this episode. Yeah, I don't like it. I like to elevate everybody.
There's something to be said about experience. And, I'm somebody who watches the trash show Grey's Anatomy from time to time. And there's always the young ones that come in that know stuff but don't have the experience. And then there's the older ones that have been around for a while that kind of go, hey, I've seen this a few times, and I thought that it was a good reminder that Beverly's not just retired and gone off hanging out somewhere. She's actively been helping people for a long time.
Yeah.
And sometimes equipment fails and they don't see something big later on. And maybe that doctor would have completely had it and found it and figured it out and been able to save Shaw, but maybe not. And it was an interesting way to kind of bring them all together. Should we talk about Shaw for a second? No.
Let's do it. Let's talk about Shaw. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Like, it's just not very often that I'm watching Star Trek and I say, ew, 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 ew. But that happened this episode.
I love it. It was a really, really clever way to get Riker in the captain's seat without killing Shaw. And I doff my cap to the show for not just needlessly killing off Shaw and actually incapacitating him. But I love how he's got the I don't know what, the girth, the like fortitude to stand up on his broken leg and be like, fuck you, Riker, get us out of this. I'm off to sick bay. I got a broken leg. Some of my insides are leaking. I
didn't
love it.
say ew,
like,
ew,
okay.
ew with the broken leg.
Oh,
Mine was ew when he just blood starts spilling out of his head.
I was like really nervous that we were going to see like his skull open, or like my last image of Shaw was going to be like Glenn from Walking Dead and his eye had popped out or something. But yeah, he was in a rough shape.
It was bad. Like, I watched the newest season of The Challenge, and there's this one girl who like breaks her face in 5 places during the finale, and you see it happen. And I'm assuming that they've added in some like audio enhancements to make it even more cringy, including the spilling of blood sound. But that was all over this episode. And I'm not sure if I'm feeling a little bit queasy because I literally watched someone almost die. A real person on a reality TV show, not a character at all. And here Shaw gets bonked and he's like leaning over and it's just this blood spilling. And I'm having flashbacks to this episode of The Challenge. I'm like, oh my shit, that's not good. And then he stands up and you're like, oh, okay, also not good.
Not good.
Not good. But he's still, like I said earlier, he still like ends up essentially helping to save the day because he gives that push to like figure out how we're being tracked, which was really essential.
He is still in Captain's brain. All he can think about is how can I save my ship? He has an epiphany and just passes it on to the nearest person that he can, and that happens to be Jack. I think Shaw is deliberately being built up as a very intelligent, a very determined captain. Like, my favorite bit of the show is Picard just like, I have to go and apologize to the captain, and I'm like, yeah, I love that. Do. Yeah, you do.
And Shaw, man, he was so fun. There was that moment when they're all trying to like look out the windows and stuff, and then that first like weird pulse that's also organic comes through, which I have a theory about the why that's happening, by the way.
Okay.
I guess we'll get to that in predictions.
Yeah, predictions.
But he goes, well, that was fun. Anyone else want to throw more weird shit at me? Like, it's just so funny.
I was like, keep it coming. Come on, throw something else. Is Q here? Like, just give me something else to talk about.
But then you get to see his grit when he's still determined. So I liked Shaw. It was just enough Shaw, and then fully into Riker and Captain Picard into like their captain mode. So
never enough Shaw. 100% Shaw. What have we got?
I do want to say this about Shaw too. There was, while he was still captaining the ship, there was that cool scene. I thought it was cool. Maybe it's kind of lame, where he actually changes over the workstation and he relieves the ensigns of duty because they'd been on shift for too long.
I had that as well.
And they got to like go sleep. And then he turns on music for the whole ship, which I think is hilarious. Did
he?
Yeah, there's that music that like kind of classical music starts playing.
Oh, I thought that was just in Seven's room. Oh no, did he turn that on for everyone?
I
thought Seven was trying to relax and then got pissed off and turned it off. It'd be kind of weird if he forced classical music onto everyone.
That's what I thought he was doing. Like, okay, everyone, it's time to chill out. We're going to do this while having a battle. Because I thought that they were still showing the bridge whenever that music came on. So I just assumed.
They were. I just think it's one of those scene transition things. Where sometimes you'll see the dialogue stop before we get there.
All right.
But I get, and that would be incredible.
But I thought it was hilarious. Funny. I thought he was trolling everyone.
Mozart.
I know. And like the whole entire crew is like, God damn it, Shaw, not again.
Not
you know?
again. We prefer the jazz. Like, imagine if the captain could just impose whatever music you'd want on them.
Why not? Just open comms and then just like stick up a little recorder to it. Like, da, da,
Amazing.
da, da, da.
Computer, ABBA. Love it. What have we got? Okay, let's transition into Rafaela and Worf. Oh, how good was it to see Worf
them together.
saying his thing? It's a great pair. It's a pairing that makes 100% sense. It really does. She is this raw, like broken person that is just full of fire and fury, and it's exactly the kind of person that Worf would be able to relate to. And so when the trailer came out, and I think the only line we had from Worf was, "I'm a pacifist now," which was obviously played for laughs in the trailer, but certain sections of the internet were like, "Worf isn't a pacifist, he's a warrior." And okay, that may have been a poor thing to put in the trailer, but I think it makes complete sense what he's doing now. We've got, again, 20 years, which is longer than we've known him for. We have now not known him for, and he is going on a journey. Yes, he still has the capabilities to be a warrior, but he's not all death and glory and this is a good day to die. I love the nuance, and I think it makes sense.
Man, if the best part of this was like the visually was the battle, the best characters were definitely Worf and Rafi, and it is so nice to see them singing together because they do have some really interesting personality traits that complement each other nicely. Like, what character on screen does Rafi really respect and is curious about? There was such a funny moment when he's like, we're going to go hunt this guy. We're going to figure it out. And you're going to be doing this with me. And he walks away and she's like, okay, yep. But then she goes, cool.
I'm in it.
And it
she's
was
kind of like,
cute.
she's ready to be put down again. And Worf's just like, nah, it's fine. I'm just fucking with you. Let's go. Like, we're teaming up now. And I love that not everything has to be conflict. I don't need Worf to be convinced to take Raffi. Like, he knows how capable Raffi is. I love that he's just like, cool, we're partners now. Let's do it. Let's fuck shit up.
Well,
it's fun.
They start off bickering a bit, back and forth, which is super fun and delightful to hear.
Yeah.
So he starts off by going like, I'm Worf, son of Mog, house of Martok, son of Sergi or whatever, house of whatever, Bane to the Duras family. Like, I just like, whoa, these are all really important things. And then Slayer of Gowron or something. And I'm just like, fuck yeah, you are, Worf.
The Chancellor.
And then he goes, and I've made some chamomile tea. Would you like some? And it's just so perfect. And it makes me remember all the reasons I love Worf, because even in TNG, when he would begin to like go tit for tat with somebody or kind of get into some sort of an argument or a conversation, the way he converses is always really interesting to me. So to have that still be part of his character now it feels right. It feels like they're not forgetting who Worf is. So like, there's all this history and stuff, but there's still this familiarity, not just because of who he is, not because of he's acted by the same person, not because he looks incredible. Like, there's still this familiarity because of his personality. And that was really fun to see, because when they're going back and forth and she's like, I was right, and you told me to disengage. And he's like, I mentioned that you were going to die. I also was right. And it's just this sort of way that they sort of like go back and forth was really delightful.
It's so great. Beheadings are on Wednesdays.
Yes. Yeah. And just like the whole opening moment where he's doing his like Worf Tai Chi thing, like where he's in front of that cool, which I believe last season, that backdrop, though on a different ship, was really powerful because it housed the Borg Queen. And this year, that really interesting sort of ship-like backdrop is now for like these interesting scenes like we're seeing now that kind of like amplify these really powerful characters. So I am super happy. Yeah, they delighted me pretty much at every turn.
Completely. I think it's what Raffi needed. I think it's a really good way to continue her story. I don't want to sound patronizing, but give her a mentor as well and give her some like direction. And just massive props to Michael Dorn. So much of Worf, yes, is in the writing, but it's in the line delivery as well. His cadence, just the way. All I could hear was "good tea, nice house" when he's talking about the tea, and just how he's talking about the journey that he's going on and talking about Raffi. He's very matter of fact. So you have the heart of a warrior. Let's go. and it wasn't too wordy, it wasn't too much. And just
No.
imagine leaving something behind for 20 years and then coming back into those shoes and just immediately inhabiting Worf again. Just massive props to Michael Dorn.
Yeah.
So good.
To me, you know,
Incredible.
I would just make an assumption that it would be like just slipping back into a really comfortable coat and you just know how to wear it, you know, but that's not always the case. Like he may have left that character behind and then he has to go and refine it. And obviously there's lots of material he can watch to refine it because we have this beautiful thing where we have archived these shows. We get to see them again. I remember you telling me about Doctor Who, where there's all of these episodes that they're literally, you saw them or you didn't because they didn't save them. So we're watching kind of like this historical evolution of storytelling where franchises have a chance to bring back characters that have aged. And we get to watch that happen. And I hope that there's other shows that will be able to have the funding and the fan engagement and the design and the desire to create something really good like this because Worf is perfection.
He is a fan favorite.
Per-fucking-fection. I'm so happy to see him.
I am so glad he has made the most on-screen appearances. Before we get into a debate about who has appeared in most episodes. He's what a great cat. And it's so Star Trek as well to have a Klingon, an alien, be the person that's made the most on-screen appearances, not even a human. So I love him. And this is a great return. This is like you said about that comfortable blanket. It's the most immediately I've been taken back into a character. I'm like, oh, that's Worf. Like that is 100% Worf in front of me. Doing his calisthenics, drinking some tea. He's going to get some prune juice. He's going to have prune juice at some point.
Listen, well, we're talking about fun stuff too, but they fucking torture a dude. Let's not forget in this episode.
Well, they attempt to. They don't actually get to the torturing.
I'm pretty sure he was being electrocuted.
No, they were just handcuffs that he was trying to break out of. He wasn't being tortured yet. And I think that
he was definitely being mentally tortured.
Mentally, with the quips and stuff.
I thought he was being physically tortured as well.
I don't think so, not yet. Star Trek's pretty careful about that. But
Okay.
I do love the good cop, bad cop. Worf is the good cop somehow.
Yeah, he's like, I remember what it was like to be unhinged, essentially.
Yes. I was much like you before. It's so, and then, but Raffi, what I mentioned about like some of it being a bit cliche, it gets saved when Raffi is just like, I'm gonna vomit my tea. Like it's
funny.
Overly sincere, but it's the point. He's supposed to be overly sincere.
Yeah,
So,
it was great. They kind of just naturally filled in these roles because they're both super intense people who are very hyper focused. And I think Worf is enjoying this parts of Raffi, and instead of like shaming her for her intensity, he's like, fuck yeah, let's go, you know, because that's his personality. And then they murder someone, so that's cool.
Murder a changeling, all right? They're pretty evil. We're allowed to kill the changelings.
Oh, I see. Okay. Mm-hmm.
What else did we have? I think we've hit most of the big moments. I think the other, like, the dynamic we haven't talked about is Picard and Riker.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about Jack, too.
Yeah, go for it.
And I also want to talk a little bit about like the LaForge, and then Riker and Picard. So which ones do you want to hit?
Oh well, let's do LaForge. Let's do that. LaForge and 7.
How did you feel about LaForge being mentioned by the daughter in this episode? Did that feel forced to you? Because I thought for sure that LaForge was going to come into this episode when she's like,
my dad is super amazing and he wouldn't be doing anything like this if he were around. Gosh golly,
Yes, he would.
7. People like me and you, we should stick together.
It does come across a bit overly sincere, but it's another one of those moments where 7 is like, this feels rehearsed. And it is an inexperienced officer that what we've missed there is her building up the courage to go and talk to 7.
That's
so
true.
She's just there and she's turned up. If we'd have seen her like kind of rubbing her hands together and kind of being a bit, oh, do I go and do this? I would get it a bit more. But there's so much we don't know about this character as well.
I thought it was so telegraphed.
Well, it was, but there's a lot of this relationship between her and 7 that we haven't seen yet. So maybe if we knew that she looks up to 7 as a bit of a mentor, we're missing why LaForge is going to see 7.
Correct.
Like that's the big thing that's missing from this, which is why it feels a bit insincere.
I believed that they had a history and she was just going to go check on her. I could kind of feel that sort of camaraderie and 7 almost maybe feeling more like a mentor to her.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand why Ensign LaForge is bringing up Daddy LaForge.
Yeah.
Like it
feels a little bit, doesn't it?
That part was like, let's not forget LaForge. And maybe everyone goes, he's going to be in this episode. And then he's just super not.
No, I think it's more to give us a little bit of backstory on Geordi and how maybe it is a bit of a reach. But I mean, I get why she's pulling from that. I also don't think choosing to be a pilot instead of an engineer equates with being a former Borg. I think that's a little bit patronizing.
I didn't know what she was trying to kind of like get at. It felt like a strange sort of attempt at one character to relate to another, and it fails in front of you. And I don't know if it's because the writers wanted it to fail or if it was just didn't hit right.
Exactly, because we don't know about her character yet.
To me, it was more like a, hey, fan base at home, don't forget, Geordi LaForge is on his way. Next episode on Picard, Season 3.
Don't forget Geordi exists, and this is his daughter.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
of all of the scenes, that is the one that felt the most forced.
That probably was maybe my least favorite sort of part.
Because what did it do for the episode as well? Like, Seven doesn't use that in any way. No. She doesn't use that advice. It's almost like, we had 2 minutes spare. What should we do with it?
And maybe I should have saved that for the Sins, but I just wanted to know how you felt about that.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I just love this episode too much. But the music, no, not the music. The rolling back to Worf really quickly. The music that he's listening to when he's doing his calisthenics is just tidbit. It's the same symphony that Picard is listening to in First Contact when they're pondering engaging the board, and he's like contemplating his life choices. So it's just a little callback.
That's so interesting
to an old movie.
I sort of love that. Yeah.
Nothing is accidental. What did we have? You said there was something about Jack.
Yeah, there's just like a couple more maybe ideas or thoughts on Jack in this episode. I thought that they did a good job of giving him more to do, but there was like a couple things that I was really intrigued by. One is him sort of showing a bit more of his what's the right word? Sensitivity to like how he's being perceived, and that he's letting it bother him a little bit. Like, I didn't ask for this. And he is sort of noticing that everyone on the ship, who, by the way, were all hunting him like an hour ago or less. So like last episode, it was a manhunt for Jack, and everyone knows this person is super wanted. And then all of a sudden they're told, okay, now we're protecting him. And everyone's just like, what the fuck is going on? And so they can see him as this exact symbol of their danger and their confusion, and now people are getting hurt, and so he's sort of bearing the brunt of the judgment of those around him, whether it's professional or not, doesn't matter, it's happening. And the way that he was standing in the hall talking to Riker, just kind of watching people go by, he was still showing that he was confident enough to stand on his own feet and not run, but also be bothered by it silently. He's also silently managing Picard being his father and coming face to face with his father, knowing that's his father. And we're learning more about the onion layer there. Then we see him helping people in sickbay and with bedside manners, kind of like assuring people. Then we're seeing him go into savior problem solving mode, risking his life for the crew, etc. They're really doing a good job of giving him some dimension, I think, in this one that I really appreciated, because it still didn't feel like it was the spotlight on him, but they cut to him just enough, I feel, that I was really impressed by him.
I think they're doing a great job of giving him some added layer and extra depth. And Ed Spielers is just a great actor as well. Like, I love... Yeah. There are even some moments where I could see Picardisms in him and the way that he talks as well. Just really, really subtle things.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was when he's talking to Seven, and one of the great things that Picard does is use the brains around him. He's not the person that has all of the answers, but he's surrounded himself with the best people. So he's great at breaking down the problem and then saying, right, my command crew, what's the solution? And when Jack goes to Seven and is like, I know that we're being traced. I know that it's because of a breadcrumb. You're the one with the brain. Tell me how these pieces add up. And Seven immediately tells him. That was such a Picard thing to do. And he just embodied a lot of how Picard gets the best out of his people.
Yeah, I like that. I can see that. I love that scene too, because he punches out the guard and Seven's just like, you're insane.
Yeah. So you're insane. Just as long as we're on the same page here, like, we both know that you're not working with a full warp core.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
love
the dimensions of what we learned in this one about his character and how he's obviously very guarded, and he doesn't feel, they didn't make Beverly feel obligated to have a relationship with Picard. They didn't make Jack feel obligated to have a relationship with Picard, so much so as to basically even ignore him in the first couple of episodes. Like he's face to face with his dad, and he's just like holding a gun to his head, essentially. I guess it was to Riker, but still, it kind of is like,
Yeah.
there's some stuff to kind of go back and potentially
you got some
sin
stuff
a
to
little
process
bit.
now.
But yeah. The other thing that I would want to mention about Jack, he had an interaction with Riker that I thought was fucking hilarious. I laughed really hard at it. Maybe it says a lot about me, but Riker is giving Jack advice. Like when those people are kind of running by, Riker is looking at Jack like a science experiment, and Jack calls him out on it. And he's like, "Please stop looking at me like." And Riker's just he's like so entertained by looking at Jack, knowing for sure that he is Picard's son.
Half
and
Beverly,
he's like,
half Picard.
Yeah, he goes, "I spent 2 decades in a spaceship watching you get cooked up before you were born." That killed me.
It's
that
such a
killed
Riker
me.
thing to say. It
I mean,
really is. It's so funny.
It's like, for those of us who live long enough to see our friends have children, this is what it's like. And then you meet that kid when they're like 20 years old.
Yeah,
and you're just sort of like,
fascinating.
yeah, I watched the whole, like before you were here, I watched your parents were edging for years. And then here you are, you know?
I've seen everything that leads to you, and that's weird. You would though, wouldn't it? Like all of that potential energy, the potential stuff. And it's there walking around in front of you, and Riker just has his boyish smile.
Oh, it's so funny.
This is the most Riker I've seen Riker be.
And then Riker shifts into like a little bit of advice, which I thought also potentially is a nod to Jack Crusher, which, by the way, what a fucking great name, Jack Crusher.
Jack Crusher.
To be able to maybe propel him into the next stages of his adventure. Riker gives him advice on these people are looking to you in anger, but you can give them a good reason for why they're putting their neck out for you. And then later he goes on to obviously help with the medical needs. But I can see that seed planted by Riker really being meaningful for him, because he maybe has reasons to just shun everyone and not give a fuck. But instead, he might find that leader part in him that gives a riveting speech at some point in time and rallies everybody to his aid or something, you know? So I thought that was kind of a cool wink and nod to Riker, and maybe that's a good transition to Riker and Picard, like you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I think that's the last big bit of the episode. So we see this beautiful shift where we've had 7 seasons of Star Trek and 4 movies of Picard in the command chair, Riker giving the counterpoint and having different viewpoints and different ways of addressing problems. To be flipped now, first in a comical way, where Picard is like, I guess you should call me number 1.
Great.
And just they're all on board, he's following orders. And then the combativeness where Picard is in a position of giving advice but not having the final say. And Riker has to make those calls now. And when the final say is on you, safety comes first. And Picard is attack while we have the chance. And Riker is, I'm getting my crew home. And just super duper uncomfortable throughout. Take a seat, Admiral. Like, shut up, sit down.
Yep.
But then even more uncomfortable when he's just like, Picard, get off the bridge, you just killed us all. It goes hard. That relationship takes a dive, and I have no doubt they'll be fine, but it's tough to watch. It's super uncomfortable, but I think really well done.
The entire thing between the two of them is going to be a delight to watch, because it's a delight to watch these two act together. There's a couple moments, especially when they're like coming up with a battle plan, where they're like giddy children, and it makes me uncomfortable because it's so serious. There's so many lives on that ship, and they're just like, so do you want to, like, I don't know, you want to blow it up, or what do you want to do?
That's definitely where the writers are talking to the audience. Like, you want us to do it. You want us to blow up the torpedo with the phasers, don't you? Like, that's definitely nodding and
that
winking
part
at
was
the
so
audience.
fucking cool. And I know we talked about it already, but the part we didn't talk about that is specific to Riker and Picard is that Riker says, we should do this. And Picard just instantly is like, I know exactly what you want. And he turns over to the computer, he types it in, and just expertly makes this happen. And Riker's like, thank God there's someone who knows exactly. It was like 2 brains
competent
operating at once. They've had so much time together. They don't have to have a lot more conversation for Picard to know exactly what to do. And I really, really liked that part. And I really, really liked them getting so giddy about how serious it was. And also, again, it made me uncomfortable. Like, maybe take it a little more seriously. But these are two old dudes that are like, we're back in battle again, buddy. Let's go. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then it suddenly gets a bit too real.
It does. It gets a little bit too real. But I thought that it was good. I liked Picard's character work and Riker's character work together because they both continue to like show like Riker's kind of coming into his own as sort of like a good voice of like father figure and advisor and captain. And Picard still has good things to say too, but he's like suddenly seems to be struggling with all of that. And I have some theories, but I'll save those until predictions.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I still think maybe Riker comes down on him a little bit hard because they didn't have a lot of options. They couldn't run anymore, but it's obviously building to something big between them. I have predictions, but before the predictions, any more notes?
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of little bitty notes that I'll just kind of go through here. I wrote down, oh, that's a lot of blood trail. I guess this is why they don't use carpets anymore.
Good point. Yeah.
I also had that I thought it was interesting that, and I noticed this in the first couple of episodes, but I put it to thought this time, which is that the drug that they're showcasing in this one, because they think that the changeling is, they don't know he's a changeling, so they think that he's kind of like having withdrawals or whatever. I think it's interesting that they have the drug or the container of the drug looking like the blade of a knife. I just thought that was an interesting kind of visual that I honed in on this time. I thought that was
that's a good visual.
It's pretty poignant.
Yeah, it is.
The medical device, we got to see kind of like restart a heart. So that was sort of a glimpse at medical gear, and we don't usually get to see the medical interfaces very often. Usually it's
not a lot at all.
Kind of do like the little circular scanner thing and like the little spray thing, but we don't usually get to see like that. So that was interesting. I noted too that when Picard goes down the lift to check on Jack when Jack was dying, that you have Beverly and Picard looking over Jack as he's reborn. And I thought that was really interesting symbolism that he was there for Jack's second birth, which is important, I think, nice. Visually. And it felt really much, it felt like he was taking his first breath or something. And I don't know, maybe I read into it too much, but it was Picard at that moment when he was needed.
It was definitely supposed to mirror a birth scene. You got both the parents there. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really clever.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. That's a good point of view.
And we also didn't mention, I forgot about this part, that Jack also had strange and interesting flashes when he was dying. We didn't talk about that.
No, I think we're best to save that for predictions because there is so little that we're given. I think all of it is going to be speculation.
Okay.
I kind of pinned that for predictions.
All right.
Of course, they had to address his accent as well. They had to.
Is that in the Sins, though?
Address his. What else was it going to be? He's fucking born in London. Went to school in London. Why the fuck else not? Like, it's... Of course, we all have to... Like, an accent has to come from somewhere, doesn't it?
He went to school and he couldn't shake it, everybody.
That's fine. You try shaking your accent. Okay. To engineering. For ReSINstance is futile. Battle stations, everyone.
Warning. Warp core collapse in 10 seconds.
Can we start with the sin from the audience today?
Can we start with the intro to the segment?
Oh, okay.
This is the part of the show where we re-engage our sin brains, remind ourselves that no TV shows without sin, even our beloved Star Trek. Ambassador, should we start with a sin from the chat today?
What a great idea, Captain. So I was talking about the blood on the floor. That was one of my notes. It's like, I guess it's why they don't have carpet for easy cleanup. But Nick says, oh my God, Deneé was saving that for sins. That's why you need carpets, because it sops up the blood from the floor and it's for safety again against slips and falls.
It's true. It's true. The carpet becomes a living and breathing element of the ship. I love it. Now, I'm struggling to sin this show because I have such a fucking good time. So like everything just feels really nitpicky because overall I loved it so much. But the biggest thing that took me out of the episode, and I'm amazed nobody in the chat has mentioned it yet, or the de-aging people. Can we not?
Well, let's just say they can only do so much.
Yeah, so don't do it. It is not the worst I've ever seen.
What options do they have?
Don't do it. find another way to have that conversation. Find another way to do that. Anything. Because then I just think about, wow, it looks like you've been airbrushed completely in Photoshop. And unless you're Disney, you're not doing it right yet. Like, it's so distracting to me. And I just don't do it. Have this conversation anywhere else. If there is something about the scene that is taking me out of the show, then I don't know, you just shouldn't be doing it. So distracting. Riker's was okay. Picard's was pretty terrible. But yeah.
I don't think I minded it that much, but we have to also just, like, Patrick Stewart's old. He's old, you know? You can only de-age that man so much, even with some CGI assistance. And I think that we just have to kind of go, this is the best storytelling that we can get, because we didn't have the youth on our side. They didn't have the forethought to pull them aside 20 years ago in real life and record this particular moment so that we could just go back and play the tapes.
I mean, possibly.
But I would send the shit out of Riker's hair. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It just was like, we're going to just add on some shoe polish to your noggin.
Yeah.
But it was okay. It was okay.
No, it just took me out of it. Blah, 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 blah. I will always moan about it. I'm sorry.
You're fine. One of mine would be, we already did the accent, his DNA. So it's in his DNA, everybody.
No, but that was a joke.
Once you're born English.
No, that was a joke.
It's just, you go and you be around your people, your DNA people, for like a semester or two, and then you're just fucked.
That was 100% the writers talking to the audience. It was like, we already know. We wrote this a year ago. We know that you've been bitching about it for 2 weeks, and here you go. That's fine. I loved it. I thought it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, another sin on Riker. Shut up, Riker. Stop telling Shaw what to do. He knows you can't go to warp in the nebula. Stop talking to the audience. Like, I'm amazed Shaw didn't kick Riker off the bridge. He keeps giving out, like, unhelpful, like, just tips and hints on how to be a captain. And if I'm sure I'm like,
themselves.
Sit the fuck down.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
They can't help
shut
themselves.
up?
Yeah, there's just...
Stop undermining me on my bridge. Go away.
It's like, you know, once you get to a certain age, you just don't give a fuck, because you're like, you know what? I know what I'm talking about, and I'm going to share my opinion, even though this is a very, very bad moment to do so.
Yeah, you can't stop me.
I don't know if this is a sin or not. Jack wanting to tell the crew, like the bridge, about the potential, like the situation, the leak, the gas leak or whatever. And he goes up to the door, and the guy's like, "Sorry, you can't come in here." Which, by the way, that's interesting to use your manpowers to have a guard at the door when you could literally just tell the computer to lock the door. But anyway,
right.
So Jack's like, and Jack's like, okay, cool. And he walks away, and I'm like, don't they have a way to send like an audio message just real quick? Like, I know he doesn't have a comm badge, but certainly there's a way to ping someone on the bridge. No, I guess not everybody can do that. I don't know.
No, I mean, is a big sin that I've got is just the fact that Jack gave up so easily. Like, I
guess maybe he thought about 7.
We needed the reason is because we need 7. We need to give 7 something to do this episode. That's why he goes to her. But I do feel like this is some crucial information that he has. Find a way to get it to the bridge. Or, like, it could have really easily been a line to the security guard of, I know how the Shrike is following us. Do you want to be the reason that we die? And then at least the guard passes on a message. Jack accepts the locked door thing very, very quickly. And then
the guard should have...
Cool, then goes to 7.
The way that this is written, the guard should be like, go talk to 7.
Yeah, right? But, like, how else did he get there? I don't know. It feels like we needed the scene with 7. Why not just make him run straight to 7 then? Because 7 should still have access to the captain. We've seen her, like, pipe up and still be in control even though she's relieved. I don't know. There was a little bit contrived. I think that's yours. Is it my turn? No, it's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Once and forever, for always, never to be unsaid or unacknowledged. Fucking seatbelts, people. Would have saved your broken leg, wouldn't it? Sit the fuck down.
No,
Riker.
wait. Hold on.
What?
We talked about this. I wanted seatbelts, and you were like, there's inertial dampeners.
Yeah, inertial dampeners. Yep. In the middle of a battle, you should be sat down.
Oh, okay. That's different.
Not always in seatbelts, and they have them in Nemesis. The Enterprise has seatbelts.
I was impressed.
And wait, we haven't seen that. When did you see seatbelts?
I was just lying. I did see seatbelts somewhere.
You've seen seatbelts somewhere.
Was it Strange New Worlds?
Might be Strange New Worlds.
I feel like there was a moment when they sat down and they had some seatbelt action going on. I was like, holy shit,
Someone
seatbelts!
did.
Because I remember sending seatbelts in and then being told about inertial go.
Oh, no, I think it's Picard. I think it's season 1 of Picard. I think La Serena has some
man needs to
seatbelts.
sit, guys.
Yeah. Sit down. Yeah, I don't know. It's so funny how like you just see like people get thrown around the ship. And it's like, so the inertial dampener is always the first thing that gets turned off? Because I feel like they should be the last thing that gets turned off. They should be buried in the middle of the ship, whatever powers them. But yeah, there we go. Seatbelts, people. How do they work?
I don't really have a lot else. And so I'll just say here that we will probably be going over quite a few sins from the live viewers because there's a lot.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
And do you want to do that? Should we do that now or do you want to put them in the outtakes? Up to you.
No, we'll do it. We'll do it in the outtakes. We will do it in the outtakes. I have 2 kind of big ones that are kind of bugging me. One of them is Riker says, hey, tell engineering that they have as long as it takes us to get out of the nebula to get the engines working. That works. That's not how repairing things works, Riker. It's not at your convenience. It's not you've got until the count of whatever. It's however long. If it takes a day, it takes a day. But this is Star Trek logic.
It's Star Trek.
The engines will be fixed as soon as we need them to be fixed.
All
and
the
then
time
they won't be.
This. Yeah.
Kind of linked to that was a sin that you mentioned last week was why couldn't they just warp away from the nebula? And I really don't understand why they didn't warp away from the nebula last episode. Because the entire goal of this episode is fix the warp engines, which only broke after they got into the nebula so that they can get out and warp away. So they haven't really explained why that wasn't an option. And I guess it was because they were too close, but it feels like being in the nebula is a really bad idea.
Too close, but then we also saw them warp away with a shuttle on the back of them, and that was fine.
Yeah. Psing. Yeah. Interesting. But yes, that was a big one. So more sins will be talked about after the show with the live chat, who suggests plenty. So shall we go into some predictions?
Yes, Captain, we shall.
Oh, okay. Toot me into the ready room. Welcome to the Captain's Ready Room, where we hear our predictions for the rest of the season and bask in our Q-like glory if anything we have previously predicted has come true. Do you want a quick rundown of the predictions so far? Captain Shaw will be ordered to work with Picard and Beverly. Haven't had that yet. Ian thinks that the Zatvash are still in Starfleet. I'm taking that as a 50% win. It's not the Zatvash, but we do have people that have infiltrated Starfleet. I'm taking that as a win.
Oh, that's not true. You said Zatvash. You just should have said infiltrate, and then you'd have it.
Damn it. Okay, noted. Vadik hasn't killed anybody to elevate her to supervillain yet, thankfully.
Oh, yeah, because we thought she was going to be killing some folks this episode, didn't we?
I mean, if she was going to be the big bad of the season, then that makes sense. But if she isn't, then maybe that's not going to happen. I still think we're going to lose somebody.
We already have. Shaw's dead.
Shut up. He's not dead. Damn it. Vadik is a red herring. Yes, I was right. Vadik is a red herring. She's not the big bad. The changelings are. So I'll take that as a win.
Okay.
Deneé thinks Laura's behind it all. We don't know that yet.
Behind every single second.
Every single thing. It's possible.
Yeah. There's no way that I can't get that one right because I'm saying every single thing that's happening is because of Laura. Yeah.
Since day one.
Exactly.
Including Jesus. Everything is law.
Influenced Beverly's decision to not tell Picard about her son. Yeah.
Exactly.
He's part of it all.
So that's pretty much everything we have so far. In terms of new predictions, what have you got? What do you think the red door is? Jack sees a red door as he's dying.
He sees a dark door in a
flash
red
of
room.
A vision. Yes. What is that?
The door was like black, I believe.
Maybe it's a flashback to his own birth.
Oh, Jesus. A rectangular shaped cervix.
It's all interpreted.
Interesting. Just the birth canal of geometry.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are they not rectangular?
Wow. There were branches. So his vision was looking up at Seven, who had like these interesting, almost vine branch vein like things coming from behind her, like up on the wall, maybe that started to grow. And And then it was connect the branches, find me are 2 words that I heard inside of there. Something, and then there was a flash of a nebula, a flash of a dark door, and that's all I really remember writing down. I think there was some other whispers happening, but I didn't have closed caption on, and if I did, I'm sure I would have some more details.
It's not much to go on. Went by very quick.
Not much to connect the branches.
Well,
that is very family tree.
It's very family tree, and it's also, it reminds me of the Great Link and how the changelings all connect together.
And find me. What does find me mean?
I mean, someone's lost. There is another big leap. If it's not the other big time that we've seen visions happen is with Sisko in Deep Space Nine. So I think I've mentioned ages and ages and ages ago that there are aliens that live inside the wormhole that Deep Space Nine is kind of stationed by.
Oh yeah, like the godlike people.
That's it. And the Bajorans see them as gods, but they're aliens that live in a wormhole and they see time as a soup. And at the end of Deep Space Nine, Sisko joins them and becomes part of whatever. He is their emissary, and he joins them and he doesn't lose his body, but he kind of lives with them in the wormhole. So maybe it's Sisko reaching out to him. Maybe Sisko is trapped, but I don't know.
In a female's voice?
Well, they would appear as different people from your past or present. So they would, in the
Seven,
visions,
it would make sense that it was Seven on screen.
Yeah, because she was the nearest person to hand.
Okay.
Usually they appear as like a family member that you've lost, or somebody that's like, they've appeared as the entire crew of Deep Space Nine. So it might make sense that it's the wormhole aliens.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Is any part of Picard still Borg?
If you've been in the collective, yes. Everyone is.
What are the chances that part of Picard's DNA is Borg? So Jack has some Borg-esque stylistic quality somehow. What if this technology is that Borg portaling kind of thing?
Yeah.
So what if there's a little Borgish? What if this voice is Agnes?
It could be.
Borg Queen?
I'm trying to think how that would work. I mean,
Borg
of course.
Queen!
It's not impossible at all, because
the finale is going to be like when the MCU put every single person on screen that you know.
Yeah,
it's like,
oh my goodness.
Agnes shows up and Worf is here, LaForge is here, everyone's here.
Friends.
Yeah, we'll see more about that. Those are just interesting things that pop into my head. I do have some actual specifics predictions.
He did have Jack before his synth body, so it would have been, you don't have to worry about him not being there anymore.
The nano purge had not happened yet.
Exactly, yeah. So interesting. Yeah. I do think that Sisko could be coming back. I think it makes sense because...
Did you see something in a spoiler or something?
No, because the Changelings are the biggest bad guy of Deep Space Nine.
And they live in a portal.
Who lives in a portal?
The gods. They live in that like little... They live in that... it's a wormhole, isn't it? It's different. Or is the portal gun creating wormholes?
No. The portal gun is creating portals. Yeah.
Okay. Is it a wormhole? The same difference? No.
I mean, the fact that a wormhole is just two ends that kind of connect.
Okay.
So yeah.
So if the founders are inside of a wormhole forever, and this weapon is like wormholing everywhere, maybe the founders are like, we don't really like this very much.
We don't like that you're using this.
Yeah.
It's possible.
It's possible.
I know that Avery Brooks has said he's happy to come back to Star Trek. It would be pretty cool it's one of the loose ends from that era of TNG that we don't have as well. We don't know what happened to Sisko. We know where Janeway is. We know where Picard is. Cisco is just off in space. He doesn't have a happy ending as such. So
becoming a god seems like a pretty cool ending to me.
It sounds like the worst to me. I can't think of much. That would be terrible. Ugh. People just demanding things from you all the time, blaming you for everything. It's terrible.
Are you ready to move on to the next prediction?
Next prediction. Let's go.
I think the nebula is alive.
It's been hinted at.
Because it's got a bioscan of some kind.
What if the wormhole aliens live in the nebula?
So, and also, I find it very confusing that the captain, whatever her name is, would just stop pursuing the ship. It kind of seemed more like one of those moments where you kind of draw someone into a trap and then you dump them into for a bigger thing. So, and here they are like free falling. And I'm wondering, how are they rescued? Like, what's going to happen here? Is it going to be like a LaForge shows up in his own ship to rescue them? Like, what's happening? So there's something that they're going to be going towards that has some interaction, whether it's being saved or whether the nebula itself is something more. And I think that it could either be alive or there's living things inside of it somehow.
Well, there's usually something at the heart of these nebulas that create them. So I wouldn't be surprised if the nebula is being created by this gravimetric disturbance at the middle. And gravimetric disturbance is so vague. That can be a time portal, a wormhole. I'm pretty certain that's going to play a big part in it. But I'm not really worried about the Titan getting saved because Vadic isn't trying to kill them. So the very least that's going to happen is Vadic comes in with a tractor beam and pulls them out and saves them because she doesn't want them dead. She wants them disabled. She wants Crusher. I don't think we're going to have anyone else swoop in to save them unless, maybe something is living at the heart of the nebula. Really interesting. It's been hinted at enough this episode that I think that's probably going to happen.
If they are saved, it'll be by LaForge. Let's just...
LaForge isn't coming to the rescue. He's a museum curator. He doesn't even have a ship. He doesn't know they're in trouble.
So we're going to see LaForge when they go to Daystrom.
100%, yeah, totally. No, not Daystrom because he's not there. He's at a museum, the ship museum of something. He's managing that.
I think he's going to come to the rescue.
Disagree.
His daughter is on a ship somewhere.
He doesn't know. She's always in danger.
He might.
Maybe. But they haven't sent out a distress call yet. So unless they... this is all happening within a couple of hours. So unless the Titan was expected somewhere, they don't even know to look for it yet.
Shh. But the shuttle had fully been disintegrated at some point in time with pieces chunking off. So maybe somebody found it because space is so small.
Outside of Federation space, yeah. Space has a lot of space and corners. Okay, everybody.
I have another one.
Oh, you've got... Right, let's do it. Enough predictions. Good.
So, Ambassador, do you have another prediction? Yes, I do. Thank you for asking.
You got another prediction? Let's go.
Well, I have a question for you. Was that
it.
really Riker at the end who kicked Picard off the bridge?
Oh, I'm really glad you said that because that does lead into one of my predictions. I think one of the main crew are going to be a changeling. It's either 7 of 9 because of the vision and Jack is sensing that she's a changeling, or it's Riker and Riker's a changeling. And that's why he's arguing with Deanna. He couldn't, Riker has been kidnapped and has been replaced with a changeling.
Oh, early on, you're saying?
Early on.
Oof.
And that's why he's been arguing with Deanna because he couldn't maintain the facade. And Riker's been kidnapped somewhere and he's a changeling.
I was thinking it was more recent than that. I was thinking in a moment where he stepped off to the bathroom to pee, the toilet turned from a toilet into a changeling and he's just tied up in the toilet just off of the bridge and he came back out and then just... So there's this moment when he and Picard are super happy to talk about strategy and then he kind of turns into where he's remove yourself from the bridge, you just killed us all kind of a guy. And that's the change.
No, I think it's all along. I think Riker's a changeling all along.
All right. I'm done.
Now you're done. Good. Me too. I think I'm done. I'm really glad you brought that up because I totally would have forgotten that big. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you 12:30 CT if you want to come and see us live on Twitch. If not, we'll catch you next Wednesday. Until next week, does anyone else want to throw some weird shit at me?
And it's this is not warrior gear. This is casual.
And live long and prosper.
Thanks for listening. Want to connect with the show? Our hailing frequencies are always open through captainspod@cinemasins.com. Like, comment, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice, and be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Oh shit, it's time. Run, Deneé, run! It's probably waiting for you. Okay, no, don't have a link. Okay. Usually if I'm super behind the ball, he's sending me a link, but there is no link, so it's fine. Just mosey on in there you totally knew it was time to connect. You weren't just wrapping up 4 projects. Pretend like it's all very normal. Pretend like you went to the bathroom and you don't have to pee real bad.
You know they have dolphins on the ship?
I've been told this. I still have a hard time understanding it. Right.
You've seen it?
I've
Cetacean
in a
You've
cartoon.
seen it in Lower Decks, yeah?
I want to see it in
You want to see live action in uniforms.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, what would be the other animal that you think deserves a department on the ship?
Oh, turtles for sure.
What are they looking after? What are the turtles looking after?
I just like how you were so shocked that I had an answer that quickly.
Yeah, you had it so quickly. Like, why turtles?
It was instant. I instantly knew. They live for so long. You know they have so much knowledge. So if we can read their minds, the things that they can catalog. Like, yeah, we've got computers, but the backup system is turtles.
Yeah, there's trees. There's this leaf that I passed after about 10 years.
That's
And
tortoise.
There was some termites that tried to eat my foot. That was an interesting decade. And then after 75 years, I was 4 meters away from my home. Yeah, loads of knowledge. Oh, Ambassador is giving me a very disheartened look. And she's out. I guess if they are in the future and around for a very long time, they're a really good living witness, aren't they? So if they've been around for 100 years, they've got 100 years of experience. But humans live until like 130, 140 in the future. Because
Well,
Dr. McCoy
do you
is
know
like
how
140.
long like the oldest tortoise is? The oldest living tortoise?
Like 170 years old.
Did you look it up whenever I left?
No? How old
It's
is it?
190.
Yeah, I was so close. Yeah, no, I knew that somewhere.
So if you multiply that by, like the future has allowed for like them to cure diseases and help
Whatever
with
kills
all that
tortoises.
shit, then the tortoises
Yeah.
are living 400 years. They're basically like elves at that point.
They are the elves of or the gnomes. Probably gnomes. They're the gnomes
They are
of
the gnomes.
Yeah.
Or hamsters, maybe?
No, hamsters are nibbly.
Oh, I mean, but you make it work. Like, what if the nibbling is part of what propels the ship somehow? Like the energy from their little tiny little mastication muscles,
You are now talking about hamsters running in wheels to power this Enterprise.
I didn't say wheels. There's Jeffrey's tubes. Just make them tiny, They just can go all over the place.
Oh, okay. No, the Jeffrey's tubes are kind of like hamster runs. So maybe we selectively breed hamsters to be huge, and we put like conveyor belts in the Jeffrey's tubes, and as they run around, that powers the ship. Absolute chaos. As soon as there's like any kind of attack, you've just got hamster guts everywhere.
It explains the tribbles.
Yes, maybe that is it. Tribbles are just evolved hamsters.
Do you want to hear something weird?
Yes.
So I don't know if you ever watched the show Catfish.
I have.
Okay. So it's replaying old episodes on MTV. And so I'm watching this old episode and I must have seen it at some point because it's in my subconscious.
Yeah.
I'm watching it and suddenly it comes back to mind is one of the creepiest ones I ever watched, which is when they roll up on this dude's house. He's in his 40s. He's pretending to be in his 20s and he's sending, sexy pics and talking dirty talk with these girls on Plenty of Fish. And one of them shows up with Neve and Max to solve the case or whatever. And he opens the door and he's just the most normal looking 43-year-old guy that's insecure and has been pretending to be somebody else for several years. And he's just fallen in love with this particular girl that they've brought to him now.
Oh,
and it just gave me the worst feeling. So anyway, I'm watching an episode and I'm like, man, I remember that weird, creepy episode guy. God, that one freaked me out. And it is that episode. Somewhere in my subconscious, I remembered the girl. And now we're at the reveal and I'm like, oh no, it's that creepy old man house again. Shit. I'm watching that episode. It gave me fucking nightmares.
The stuff that your subconscious holds on to. Yeesh.
It's crazy. Isn't it weird?
Like the stuff I can't remember, and yet that is like buried in my head.
Uh-huh. It's crazy that it's still going as well. I mean, I know they have different hosts.
Well, they have an endless supply of creeps that are doing shit like this.
And they were, one of the newer episodes, they were talking with somebody who's, the guy she was interested in lived in one of 3 places. He said he lived in like, I think Miami, Dallas, and another city. And they look over to their map on the wall and they are the 3 largest cities for catfishing.
Oh, wow.
Because they've kept track.
Yeah.
And they're just this like map on the wall with all these hot red
Surprise.
spots. And whoever the actual catfish is pretending to be from all of the 3 most popular catfish areas. It's such a weird thing. Why do people do that?
Isn't that a big red flag if you're like on a dating website or something that the person you're talking to is like, riddle me these cities 3. Which one of these will you find me?
Right? Your little tweedle tweet of you sucking on that water kills me.
Really? It's really confusing when I edit because I'll forget what it is, and it's sped up because I listen to it at like 1.5
It's like a little twill
speed.
from Star Trek.
And I'm like, is there a bird coming?
If we ever make a sound set for our show that it's like Trek-esque, it should come from that tweedle.
Oh my god! If I sped it up and raised the pitch, you'd think it was a communicator chirp. Yeah,
I know.
For real.
In our work chat, Jonathan was like, Ian, you're going to love this episode. And Jonathan, I'm curious what you thought that was going to be. For me, I thought it was a spaceship battle. Like when the spaceship was just like, there's all these really cool space scenes. I was like, oh, this is going to be why Ian thought this episode would be really cool. Why did you think that Jonathan wrote it?
Yeah, I'm guessing that Jonathan was talking about the Changeling stuff as well, because it's a huge DS9 callback. I'm a big DS9 fan.
Oh, okay. And that's what Nick is. So this is like a big fucking deal.
This is a huge, big fucking deal. This is.
Oh, I
huge.
see. Okay.
Yeah, big deal.
Jonathan says, I thought just all the Worf stuff, the Picard Riker stuff, and the Changelings would make Ian go crazy, and it did. Yeah. Right, Ian?
So good, all of it. Love this.
I never know what Deneé will like.
This is true.
Yeah, I'm a little bit hard to predict. Yeah. This one was from Nick earlier. Shaw's a fucking beast with a bone sticking out of his leg. He looks at Riker and says, look at me. You are the captain now.
You are the captain now. I love that so much. Like, you deal with this shit.
Flyboy asks, I'm probably not the only one asking this, is Vatic a changeling?
I mean, a very oddly behaving changeling. It's possible, but
I don't think she needs to be.
I don't think she needs to be for this to work.
She's kind of like the captain of this really interesting crew of people. Like,
yeah, it's the warship thing that's really interesting to me. Is like, Beverly's right. That's not a bounty hunter ship. That's a fucking battleship. So she might be. I want to know who the minions are. Are they an updated Breen? Because the Breen were working with the Dominion. So it would make sense. Maybe they're new uniforms.
Those guys?
Yeah, the clicky clacky people.
Josh Zero, who couldn't stick around for the show, says, I can't actually stay today. I just wanted to say Riker isn't Riker. Woo!
So originally the chat were like, Riker isn't Riker because he's his transporter double, Thomas Riker. Mm-hmm. And it may actually turn out that they're right because he's a changeling. Imagine being that specifically right for the wrong reason. That's incredible.
Flyboy says the saboteur changeling was disguised as an inanimate object on the Ilios, maybe? Ooh.
Yeah?
Maybe.
Possible.
Because now we know that's possible. You probably knew that already. News to me.
Because everyone knows that crew member, so I think he's been on the Titan for a long time.
Yeah.
Because if he'd suddenly turned up, they'd be like, hey, who's this new crew? Oh, unless he's taking the form of one of the crew. Anyway.
And then Rima says, I think canon is they can't turn into anything mechanical.
Yeah, nothing with moving parts like a bomb or a weapon or something like. You couldn't just like turn into a bomb and then explode.
It could look like a bomb, but not be an actual bomb.
Exactly. It couldn't then explode. But who needs to explode when you can strangle people with your webby tentacles?
We were talking about how Gates McFadden was doing so well on screen. Jonathan says, makes it more irritating that we didn't get more of Gates in the movies than we did.
Every day. I will make this argument every single day. She was done dirty by Star Trek.
Slab wants to change his prediction that Beverly dies to she almost dies, and Wesley comes in and the Travelers ex machina her away.
Yeah? Ooh. I mean, this is the problem with the Q. The Q, the Travelers, omnipotent beings, they can always be the ones that come in and save the day. So I think you have to.
Don't forget about the portal gods.
And the portal gods. Yeah. I mean, and they kept doing that in Deep Space Nine as well. Like they would like swoop in and delete an entire armada of ships because Cisco convinced them to.
Slab says, Sin, you tell the former head of Starfleet Medical to F off because she hasn't been CMO of a starship in 20 years?
Bit of a dick move. I mean, Jonathan also mentioned it ties back into the making the Doctor look stupid to make Beverly look smart. You don't have to do it. You don't have to at all. Both things can be true. And it is a dick move to assume that Beverly, who is the head of Starfleet Medical, hasn't kept up with medicine. Like, just wild.
If Shaw died before he could give command to someone else, who would take over the ship?
The first officer or the third officer. But we don't know who the third officer is. We know that 7 of 9 is obviously first officer. But
But she's in trouble right now, so she couldn't get it.
Yeah. Or it would probably fall to Riker anyway, because he's the ranking officer on board.
Jonathan points out, finally, Rafi is interesting. Love the actress. I just never found how they used the character in the first 2 seasons all that compelling. They basically told us in episode 2, he was the person in contact with Rafi, right? Or did I hear that wrong? I'm talking about Worf. And have they come flat out and said Section 31 because that has to be who they're working for, right?
Yeah, no, they didn't. It was heavily hinted at because of the way he was talking, but they didn't say it was Worf. And they haven't, I mean, the Ferengi has mentioned Section 31, but nobody has outright said that that's who Worf is working for.
Dead.
Indeed, yeah. But it wouldn't surprise me. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he's Section 31 now. That would be pretty cool.
Nick is celebrating that the prediction from last week that he's not actually Starfleet intelligence was 100% right.
Go, Nick.
I called it. Nice job.
Good prediction.
This one's from Slab. I feel like Riker turned on Picard too easy. Yeah, maybe it's because he's not actually Riker.
He's not actually Riker. It did happen quickly at the end, but hey.
Yeah.
When your ship plummeting towards a gravimetric disturbance, perhaps that's how it makes you feel.
Nick says, I really love the inclusion of the bridge crew, especially the Vulcan Tavine, as she was awesome this episode. I agree.
Yeah, Tavine's great. I love a good Vulcan
Tavine.
on the bridge. Yeah.
Just enough Vulcan, just enough, like, a little personality, but still very Vulcan. It was really, it wasn't too robotic. And I liked the way that her ears looked. It was almost like you couldn't really tell.
A little extra
They were
bendy.
kind of like back a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was nice.
I like it.
Kill him. Kill Jack. Be brave. Be brave, show. Murder the boy.
I don't know.
You think they'd do it?
He's going on the Star Trek cruise next year. It would be a bit weird. 2 episodes.
Is he?
Yeah, he was one of the names.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah, Ed Spielers.
Spoiler alert. God.
That's possible.
No. Riker, fuck.
Oh. Sit
Fuck,
down.
Riker. Dude, I'm very uncomfortable, Dad. I'm watching my parents fight.
Uh-huh. You're ready to get some information dropped on you, Deneé. I bet you have all the questions.
I don't know if I have a whole bunch of questions or not. I'm always surprised. Let's wait for the show. Let's wait for the show. And that's why you listen to Captain's Pod for the
There it is.
most up-to-date and important
Nature
information
time.
about Star Trek stuff from somebody who doesn't know Star Trek very well at all. Thank you for listening.